Welcome, everybody. My name is Loren Schoenberg, and I'd like to thank you all for coming to our offices at the Jazz Museum in Harlem. For those of you here for the first time, I'd like to welcome you on behalf of not only myself, but my co-director, the world-renowned bassist Christian McBride. Chris and I were just out in Colorado doing a teaching thing together, and he's on the road being one of the world's great bass players, so he's not here tonight. I'd like to introduce my co-producer of the series, Mr. Greg Thomas. And also the only, besides myself, the only full-time member of the staff of the Jazz Museum in Harlem, who does so much for us, Wilhelmina Grant.
You know what he means.
Oh, listen, she's working full-time, as am I. Basically, what's going on here, folks, if this is your first time here, I'd like to give you about maybe a 90-second update, just so you know exactly what's happening and what's happening with us before we get to our honored guest this evening. I've been looking forward to this for so long. I'm itching just to get going. But let me just tell you, basically what's happening is we've been in this office for going on 4 years, and we're looking for a permanent home. And on the way to finding a permanent home, we said we shouldn't just be sitting here waiting, not doing anything. So we started this series called Harlem Speaks. And if you look on the wall, you'll see a photo montage, which Wilhelmina does, which, by the way, could be a whole second sideline for her, because these are some of the best montages I've ever seen in my life. And the photos are taken by Richard Condi, who's right here. Wonderful photographer. And you can see from our guests, we have had Dr. Billy Taylor. Recently we had Bill Rhoden, William C. Rhoden, sports columnist from the New York Times, one of the all-time giants. Gene Bach, who made the film A Great Day in Harlem. Gloria Lynn was here, and that was one of the great nights. Yeah. Joey Morant, who everybody knows, Mr. Trumpet. Grady Tate was here. Milt Grayson from the Duke Ellington Band. Mercedes Ellington. As I mentioned, Dr. Billy Taylor. The folks from the New Amsterdam Musical Association, which is one of the many, many Harlem organizations that we're proud to be associated with. And on the back wall, you'll see everyone from Larry Ridley to Marjorie Elliott to Patience Higgins, all different kinds of people. The bottom line is that if this thing isn't consonant, or if it doesn't ring or rhyme with Harlem, then there's no point in doing it. So I'd like to welcome everyone for coming. As I look around the audience, I see some new faces and some faces I haven't seen before. I'd like to recognize in the audience we have some wonderful musicians with us this evening, including one of my favorite trumpeters. When I first moved to New York 30 years ago, I was looking for him, and now here he is, Kamal Adelifu, right here. And so many other members of our Jazz Museum family. But we also have one of our honorees is here, someone who was one of our very first honorees. And as soon as we get this thing up and going, we're going to build an exhibit on her life and on her history with her help and her blessing. And that's one of the first things that we're going to do. And that's Taja, a legendary dancer from the Apollo Theater. Is it too much echo? Oh, yes. You hear it? Hear it? Okay. 1 second. Say a few words and that's it. Bill Saxton. First thing I have to say is we were on the radio last night on the good offices of our friend Greg Thomas on WBAI. And we were on from 12:30 to 1:30 in the morning. And I think if there's any definition of having a familial, large following in any industry, it's if you can get people at 1:30 a.m. on a weeknight to call up to want to talk to you. The phone was ringing off the hook last night. Yeah, people were calling from all over, want to talk to Bill Saxton at 1:30 in the morning. I said, that's something. Testament. So, that's a testament. I don't even know where to begin. You were so eloquent last night. I guess I'm just going to say thanks for coming, and please tell us your story. This is, and I should mention these things, these evenings, these sessions are videotaped by Nicole Levan, who's a recent graduate of City College. Am I correct? And she's also an accomplished filmmaker in her own right. She's got a whole bunch of stuff going. And these are part of the archive of the Jazz Museum in Harlem. So when we're speaking, we're not only speaking for ourselves, but for subsequent generations. So Bill Saxton, you, jazz, how did it happen?
Well, I'm having a friend of mine who's here tonight, who's a fabulous musician in his own right, and I asked him to videotape the program as well. And
Dick
I'd like
Griffin?
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's have a hand for Dick Griffin. Wonderful company. Yeah, he's got my back. You know. Standing by the door. But
Turn the air conditioner.
sure. I'm probably, I may be one of the few guests that's been here that's actually born in Harlem Hospital. You know, went to Frederick Douglass Junior High School. I heard my first music in Harlem. I had, my family they liked records and played records, all kinds of records in my house, And I was told the stories, whereas before I could read or write, you know how the records had the same, Savoy had the same label, I think gold and red. I used to have the ability to pick the right record among all of them that looked the same. I don't remember this. My aunt, she was there, she can tell you about it. I don't know. But they say I was good. I also had the ability to sing. I could sing very well as a young kid. And when I started to play the saxophone, I could just about play whatever I sang. If I could sing it, I can play it still to today. I don't have perfect pitch, but I hear it very well. So I got into music, it was there. It was there. I mean, I grew up in Harlem, so I used to sell papers up and down 7th Avenue, so I used to pass by all the clubs, the Club Barra, the Dawn Casino, Red Rooster, Colony, Small Paradise. I couldn't go in, but I used to stand by the window and listen. And I was always impressed by the saxophone because it's just beautiful to look at, the design, the shape, and the keys, and the engraving. It's nice. I always knew that I wanted to play an instrument, but I didn't know which one I played. And when the 64 riots came, that's how I got my first saxophone. So
Can you connect that? Because did you just say what I thought you said?
Yes.
Okay.
But someone gave it to me. I inherited it. I made a trade. So I acquired the saxophone, and I had the saxophone. The saxophone has a neck, and then there's the body. I had the body with no neck. So I used to carry it around in a pillowcase, But prior to that, in junior high school, Frederick Douglass, I played clarinet in the band, but I was terrible. I was terrible because I used to get in trouble all the time, and even though I had the ability to play it, I didn't really learn anything because I would sit next to somebody who played better than me. I watched what their fingers did, and I would do what they did. I did enough to get by. And then I got serious after I got this saxophone. And so my family moved from Harlem to the Lower East Side, Manhattan, near where Jackie McLean lived in the projects across from where my mother lived. And I met these young group of musicians who were also part of Harlem. This was an organization that was founded in Harlem. It's called Harlem It's for Harlem Youth. And they had all kinds of bands. They had dance, and they had these young musicians who used to play, and they had, they had to walk with their little cases. I couldn't hang with them, but I admired them. One of them was Renee McLean, and there was a bunch of them. I think, were you part of Harlem? No, but there was a bunch of them. But they had a thing, and I was like, wow, I like to do that. And so when I met this guy who became my best friend, his name is Nelson Samaniego. He's now deceased. He's very advanced for his age. At 14, he could probably play as well as I play right now. Real far ahead of himself. And so, he used to practice all the time. When he wasn't home, he wasn't there. He wasn't practicing, he wasn't there, excuse me. So, he liked me because I was streetwise. I liked him because he was very talented and would practice. So later, when I started to get into the saxophone, I used to emulate what he did. I would practice and try to make my instrument sound like his, as much as I could. And so that was my inspiration. Then I got to meet Jackie McLean, and that was a big lift, and just being around, different people. And that was the beginning.
You mentioned last night on the radio that you were born in Harlem Hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could go back and paint a picture, not that far back, not that far back. I was just saying, wait a minute. No, but seriously, if you could take it back before your family did move downtown, and paint a picture of the street where you lived and the neighborhoods, and what was the Harlem like that you grew up in? What would you like people to know years from now about that experience?
Well, what it was like, it was no hang-ups about what kind of music you heard. Like, I had a neighbor who used to clean her house every Saturday, and when she cleaned her house, she played this music loud. I used to hear Art Blakey moaning. I used to hear all kinds. Her son is here right now. Jerry's my cousin, is sitting there. His mother, she played, all this music all the time, loud. Every Saturday, you can depend on it. The whole building would be lit up with her music as she cleaned on Saturdays. So I heard all these songs, and then, there was record stores used to have the speakers outside. And so there was one song that we used to hear calypso, we used to have Latin, the black, in our community, we all danced to all kinds of music. It wasn't no hang up as to doing R&B, this, we do Latin. I could still do the salsa. I'm the Mambo King. I thought I was, I still think I'm the Mambo.
That sounds like a cue, doesn't it?
But on the serious side, it was no hang-ups. Calypso, we hang out with go to, as a matter of fact, I used to go to the Palladium and walk past Birdland. Walk right past Birdland. Coltrane was in there burning. I'm going to Palladium. That's where the ladies were. That's where the action was. I didn't know any better, And so I really understand how today these kids go and do what they do and walk past. Have no interest in jazz. They don't have the exposure, first of all, And what I'm about now is trying to make that happen.
When we come, the way that these interviews usually go is we talk for about 45 minutes or so, then we take a break, and then we come back. And I know that in the second half, I really do want to get into very much the tremendous things that you're doing and that you've done in education and for young people. I heard that story that you told last night on the air, which you'll have to wait to the second half of your, maybe, if it's up to you. But you've already done something that's absolutely fascinating to me, which is the way that the history is usually told. As we talk about the great figures around Mount Rushmore, and the great saxophone players, and the great influential people. But you talked about this friend of yours named Nelson, and you talked about this wonderful woman in your building who played records. And these are the people, and these are the influences, I think, that so many times don't get wrapped up into the histories of the music. They think that people just heard a John Coltrane record and that was it. I was wondering if you could talk more about the people that you encountered in your early years who may not even have been musicians necessarily, but who made a big impression on you.
I'm glad you said that, because I wouldn't be able to leave here without mentioning a person who helped me who kept me on kind of track, in my early years of getting serious about playing music. After meeting Nelson, I met Carlos Bristol. He's sitting right there. He was my first saxophone teacher. He used to be on me all the time. On my back. Well, you said you want to be good, so you should practice. Well, why are you doing this when you should be doing this? And he was like, brother, I needed somebody like that around me because, I have a lot of interest in our drift, and he's responsible. He's not so active in music now, but he used to write tunes every day. I write a tune. The one for June 28th was my birthday. I just made 59. He wrote a song for anything, anything. And then he came, then he got into the New York scene here, and he just stopped playing. I kept on playing, And but what happened? Back to what you asked me. What did you ask me?
about some of the people that you met early on who we need to know about, because I just want to say that in the Jazz Museum in Harlem, as it's constructed, of course we're going to pay a lot of tribute to the well-known people that everyone knows, but we also want to make sure that there's space there for the folks who are not in the jazz history books, but the people who really were there every day doing something for a young Bill Saxton or whatever. So
Well, I caught the tail end of a lot of stuff, you know, because when my family moved downtown, we were a few blocks away from Slugs. So I used to go to Slugs when the guy was nice enough to let me in all the time. So I got to see, oh man, Grant Green, Wayne Shorter. I used to, Wilbur Ware lived right around the area there. I used to see him all the time. One time I was walking down the street with my instrument, and a guy walking behind me and says, "Are you selling that?" So I acted like I didn't hear him. I wasn't selling. Oh, I ain't talking to me. They said, "I'm talking to you." I turned around, it was Kenny Dorham, you know. And Junior Cook was there. Pharoah Saunders lived in the area there, but not in Harlem. This was downtown, but up in Harlem, in particular, I didn't meet no musicians. You know, I knew gangsters. You know, it was more like a, yeah. You know, we were into another whole thing. I got more into music after I moved downtown, and then it became more serious because I realized what I needed to do, and I started to pursue it. But the first musician that I heard that I liked was Stan Getz, believe it or not. And it was like, and through reading the back of his records, that's how I learned about Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young and people that influenced him, you know, and then I would follow that trail, you know, but it was Stan Getz that led me to Sonny Rollins and Coltrane. It's like somebody listening to Kenny G now and find out about Bill Saxton, you know what I mean? You know, we started with Kenny G, you know. And somewhere Kenny G in the room, I heard Bill Saxton. Or I heard somebody who heard somebody I did to me some kind of way. And I had the good fortune of meeting Gene Ammons, Sonny Stitt, you know. Used to play with Sonny Stitt all the time. I couldn't come around him. Young fellow, come on. You know, that's the way he was. And then he'd play in a different key. Yes. You know, so,
Cherokee and B, right?
yeah, you start off and you think your horn was out of tune. And Gene Ammons, I asked him once, I said, he had a real deep voice. And he said to me, I said, well, would you just listen to me play and tell me what you think I need to work on? He said, well, let me see your finger. And every saxophone player on their thumb, they have a callus. He said, oh, you've been playing for a little while. Then he showed me his and it was choosing. Another time I met Hank Mobley, and I asked him would he listen to me. I was always like that. If I saw somebody, I would ask someone was anything. I was still like that. You know. And so Hank Mobley went to his hotel room, and he took the Playboy magazine and opened it up to the center. He said, well, what would you play to her if you wanted to get it? I said, well, I started playing my wrist. You'll never get it like that. He said, I'll get it.
I can see a whole new teaching approach at the conservatories now.
So everything has to be in context. You can't play Cherokee if you're trying to get it. Yeah, play
Not to that cold song, like
you know, you gotta play, you know, Parker's Move. Something else.
Right.
Sweet. Yeah.
Just to back up for a moment, you know, this is I guess, a jazz audience because we're in the Jazz Museum in Harlem, but
These are all my friends, you know, I don't know everybody here by first name.
okay.
This is heavy.
But there might be some people watching this tape at some point who don't even know what Slugs was. So could you, what was Slugs for somebody who doesn't know what kind of club was it? And of course something horrible happened there, which is how most people know it. Well, I'm serious because someone
That's true.
got killed in Slugs one night.
Right.
But just paint a picture. I mean, what was it like?
It was dark, it had sawdust on the floors, it had those chairs made out of wood, not the bent wood, you know, the chairs were like that. The stage was all the way in the back. And everybody came there, all the musicians were there. They all lived down in the village, in the East Village at that time, which was very cheap to live. Now, you can't do anything down there. You know? But everybody lived in there. Everybody lived in the area. You know, there was Alan Shorter, Wayne Shorter's brother. I mean, just everybody. I found out 10 years ago that Archie Shepherd's my cousin. You know, I didn't know. Well, it's true. Yeah.
Wow.
On my mother's side of the family. Yeah. And he was down there too. And then one time I approached Pharoah Saunders. I'll approach anybody, like I said. You know. And he invited me by his house, and I came there, and he threw this big book at me. I caught the book. It was Nikolai Salonis, the Chords and Scales of Melodic Patterns. It's a source of Chords and Scales of Melodic Patterns, which is a book that Coltrane did a lot of research in. He threw the book at me, I caught the book. He said, okay. I said, all right, bye. I went and got the book. Yeah, it was about that book. It was a piano book, but it had concepts in it, you know, how to interpolate melodies, melodic motifs. And so Slugs, back to Slugs. But Slugs wasn't just one club like that. There was the East Village Inn. There's a bunch of little places though. The 5 Spot was on St. Mark's. You know, I'd get off the train and walk from West 4th Street all the way, and I passed by a bunch of little places, but Slugs was like the main place of choice. As a matter of fact, you could just run into anybody walking down the street and you go in there. See, I was a little bit underage at the time, so my possibilities of getting into the place all depended on the bouncer, who was a big, mean dude. You know, he just give me a hard time just because. You know, and all I want to do is hear the music. But sometimes he felt all right. He'd let me stand in the back. Other times, you can't come in. You know, but many times Jackie McLean would play there. I saw when they first began, they didn't have a bandstand or piano, and Billy Higgins used to play on a chair with a phone book and with the brushes. You know, and I just saw these guys were always there, you know. I mean, everybody was there. I don't know what else to say about it. It was wonderful. I realized where I was. I realized where I was because I went there for that. You have to want to go there for that because if you wanted to do something else, that's not what was there. It's all about the music and the musicians and the whole atmosphere.
When did the playing in bands and the professional part of your music life start?
Well, one of the first big, I thought it was a big opportunity, and that's where I met Dick Griffin. We were playing with Sun Ra. I was invited to play with Sun Ra, and I was like, wow, I'm playing with Sun Ra. You know? And I had been studying a little bit, you know. I was studying harmony chords and stuff. That was before the New England Conservatory. And but when I got there, it was like, I was a little bit disappointed because not Sun Ra himself, I wanted to be near saxophone player was there, his name was John Gilmore. That was my real motive.
Wow.
But then I discovered that after the nucleus of the band, there were other people in the band who didn't know as much as I knew. And so I didn't stay there very long. Because it would seem to be more about theater and other things, you know, rather than music. As a matter of fact, the guy John Gilmore, who I wanted to be around, he was playing drums. I was having problems all the way around, so I took it for what it was worth, and I moved on.
What was Sun Ra like?
Different.
Timing is everything.
It's different. It's different. I mean, as I listen to his music now, and especially later when he started playing the old arrangements and stuff like that, you know, stuff that he had arranged and done. But back then it was like all about being in the space age, and the second stop was Jupiter, and so on and so forth.
But you know, it's funny that he started out writing arrangements for Fletcher Henderson.
Right.
And he made these early records. They're absolutely amazing. I mean, they're all written out. The bands are really tight. They're playing all these great charts, and then, like you said, then it went to this other place.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was John Gilmore like? Because he's another name who frequently gets ignored too often. But he's a legend among us saxophone players. What was it about him that you liked?
I liked his concept. He had excellent, he had a great tone. He had great technique. He was a nice guy. He was quiet. And he would show me things once in a while, you know. But mostly he would play the drums, you know, and everybody. But what I liked about him most, was his harmonic concept and the way he approached, different than anybody, different, and probably had not he stayed with Sun Ra so long, we would all know much, much more about him than we know.
Yeah.
It would be such an insight thing.
I saw an article in the paper last week or 2 weeks ago about Marshall Allen.
Right.
He's still in that house in Philly where they all were, and he's trying to keep it going and trying to get a museum or archive going.
That was another problem I had. He had a place on 3rd Street back then, but everybody stayed in this apartment and it was like too tight. I had my own handles anyways, so it didn't mean much good. So I took what I could, and it was good. I can say on my resume, I played with Sun Ra.
I'm curious, when you played in the band, were there written arrangements for most of it, or was it just head charts, just start playing?
No, he would write your part as you came in. Like if all of us played with Sun Ra, he write a part for you. You played this and this. And you come in here, just like that. He did like that. Everybody played together, it gelled. It was like amazing. I mean, sometimes you have one note. When I put my finger, you play that one note, okay? But don't play nothing till I point at you. Because that's probably, he knew everybody's ability, so that was the best that he knew that person could do. That's what turned me around. I said, hey, I'm practicing all this here. One note. That's what it's I couldn't get with that,
Sounds like Duke Ellington almost did it.
I don't think so.
I'm trying to be nice. So, how did you leave Sun Ra's band and where did you go?
But I left out of there. But when I went back to practice. I used to practice all the time. I used to practice on the Riverside Drive all the time, at night. And all night I would listen to records and then turn them over. I would play more than one album at a time, about 4, 5, 6. So I turn them over. I turn it over, go to sleep, wake up like that every day. And then go on. I used to practice. I used to have a neighbor who used to bang on the steam pipes as long as I practiced. She couldn't outdo me. Talking about 8 hours, 9 hours every day. And after 10 o'clock, you had to be quiet, and then I would still practice softly.
Did you ever put a towel?
And then when I started making money, I knew it was going to be, look at my boy, yeah.
It's always that way, isn't it? Right. So what band came in? Well, first records I have you on, you were with Mongo, weren't you?
That wasn't the first records, but that was among the first. That was the first big name person.
Right. So you mentioned the New England Conservatory. How and why?
Well, I didn't mention that yet.
Yes, you did.
That's email.
Well,
I'm not a mind reader. You said
you did.
Okay.
Yeah. I used to read the back of records, like I said, and most guys that I admire went to some kind of musical institution or institute or was in the Navy or something. I couldn't be in the Navy or the Army. It wasn't my thing, But they all went to some kind of institution, so I felt like as I was starting to try to get serious about it, and I knew that there was a lot of things that I didn't know, so I started to pursue the idea of maybe perhaps I would try to get into the music school, but since I started playing seriously, trying to get into the music at about 18, 19 years old, I knew that my chances was limited. I felt that they were limited, so I always had to keep a job, so I started studying radiology to make sure that I could be able to have something under my belt in case my dreams didn't quite come off like I wanted them to. So I was doing radiology, and I would take my horn in the x-ray room in the dark, and when there was nobody to be x-rayed, I would practice. I didn't like that too much, but I knew I had to do something. And at the time, I was just a high school grad, GED, and then, took the test without studying. I could do this. I took bets and won first time. But anyway, I read these records, so at the time, I had no problem practicing them, so I practiced etudes after classical book that you're supposed to audition for, and it would sound like Charlie Parker, so, because I didn't have the concept to play classical music, and you got to sit up straight. You know, I said, let, you know, like that. It wasn't working right, so I wasn't accepted into NYU. And at the time, I was working at a law firm, and I had started as a messenger, and went from messenger, file clerk, librarian. I became a law clerk. It was the guy who served summonses on paper. And the people in the president of the law firm asked me, did I want to study? You know, they was going to sponsor me to go to law school. Well, I couldn't do that. But I told them that if you want to help me do something, you can help me get into music school. So his, a relative of his was married to his daughter, Stanley Silverman, you remember? You know? He's friends with Gunther Schumann. He used to work at the repertory orchestra down at, yeah, of course. And so they had me bring my saxophone in and play for him. And I played for him, and that started the whole thing. He connected me with Gunther Schumann, and I went through the application process. And then I had to get past this audition. And I knew that I had blue at NYU. So I was studying with saxophone player Benny Markham. You heard Benny? Yeah. And he had just went on the road with Herbie Hancock. So he's from Detroit. He turned me on to Joe Henderson. And Joe Henderson prepared me to play classical music well enough to pass the audition to get into the New England Conservatory. Then after I got in, they started a jazz program. I said, but I had to play classical to get in.
I had to stop for a second, because you said that on the radio last night when Greg had Bill on the radio. And we were talking last night, again, it was about 1:28. And you said that. You said Joe Henderson prepared you. Now, again, for a jazz musician, none of us, Greg, I think it's fair to say, would have any idea that Joe Henderson did something like that. That's so fascinating. Can you just back up a little bit? Like, I didn't know that he played classical saxophone.
Serious. Joe Henderson studied with, well, he's from Detroit. Yusef Lateef is from Detroit. Benny Carter. Yeah, I'm talking about saxophone players right now. Okay, but Billy Mitchell. Well, all these guys studied with this guy named Larry Teal. You know Larry Teal? Right. Larry Teal. And they all studied with him. He was a wonderful saxophone teacher, and he has books, publications out about the art of playing the saxophone was one of his books. And so Joe, showed me how to interpret the classical style, and then we'd play out the book, and then he would take the same line and he would swing it and play it the other way. So he showed me how to do it both ways at the same time. He said, well, man, the sounds hit this way, and if you change this around. So we actually started borrowing from classical music and playing it in a hipper way, playing it in the style of jazz and that vernacular, same piece. So yeah, Joe was excellent. He knew. And so when I went up to the conservatory, I was ready. And so it was like real, I got into full scholarship. And then in my senior year, Mongo Santa Maria called me.
All right.
Said, I need a saxophone player. Well, I'm in school. I said, John, it made sense to me. So I then went to the wherever you cash in your credits. I said, I got this. What can I get? I said, I got a diploma. And then I had taken all the music courses, so I finished my required academic courses on the road, and I got my bachelor's degree later. So, but the whole time at the New England Conservatory was an excellent experience. It was a totally full scholarship. And during that time, there was a club in Boston called Wally's. And I'm the king of the ghetto, I would find me a place to play. So the whole time that I was playing in Boston, I used to play at Wally's every weekend. And then I met a young saxophone player who liked the way I played. His name is Ricky Ford. I became his teacher. And so I'm Ricky Ford's first teacher. And Ricky Ford was I used to teach at this school called the Elmwood School of Fine Arts in Boston. And that's where I used to teach curriculum, and they had a liaison with the conservatory, and it was sponsored by the Ford Foundation, so they paid for the teachers to teach kids in the black community about teaching music. Ricky was one of them. And so Duke Ellington used to come every year to play for Elma Lewis. Well, I would go to New York every summer and come home. I used to go home every weekend. Well, Ricky got a few things together, and she had him play for Duke Ellington. And Duke Ellington hired him, boy. Yeah. He got the gig with Duke. And I was in New York. I was his teacher. I was like, and so, he's done very well for himself. I'm very glad he lives in Paris now. He's doing good, although he never said much that he studied. Well, me and Bill used to practice here.
Who were some of the other students at that time at the NEC?
That's my sister. Come on.
Hey, come on in.
That's my sister there. Yeah, that's Louise Saxton. Yeah. My big sister, so she says.
Oh, there's a seat here for
Hey,
you.
see, your name is on there.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna take you home, Saxton.
Yep. Saxton family.
It's my sister too.
Who were some of the other students at that time? Some friends or peers of yours at that time?
At the conservatory?
Yeah.
Well, when I went up there, I was scared because I had to go by myself. So my good friend, Sinclair AC, he's a trumpet player. He is a trumpet player, and I asked him to go with me. So he went with me. He got to school too. Just like that. So, but that's how he got up there, because I asked him to go. So he went up there with little bags of chicken, on the bus in town. And then when I got up in Boston, it became like my second home, even to this very day. I go up to Boston. We were very. I was kind of militant, so they had a degree in jazz. I said, well, what jazz? That don't mean nothing. Why would So I put up we put this big stake on jazz. I don't want no degree there. So my degree reads African American music. And after I graduated, jazz. That's absolutely true. So AC was up there. There was a piano player up there, Cedric Lawson, Bobby Eldridge. This is at the conservatory in Boston at the time, because it's all these schools are together. Bill Parrish was up there, Billy Thompson. There's a lot of them. We had a little clique of musicians, and we used to practice and play together all the time. Challenge each other. And then I started an organization up there called the Black Avant-Garde, and since I couldn't get no gigs, so I created a gig. I'll create a gig in a minute. And so we had the basement of this church, and they used to let us use the church. And at the time, my girlfriend, she could cook anything. She could taste anything and duplicate it. Even I was into bean pies. And she would get these beans and soak them, and we tested them. And then finally she came up with it, had it right. Well, I was selling bean pies to everybody in school. Even Delta Shoe everybody. Every Friday I come with, they used to call me Bean Pie Man. So I come with my pies, I had them. That was my way, that's all, so it was, always something.
I was just going to ask you about.
You didn't have no bean pie.
No. No, I was going to ask you not about bean pie, about Gunther Schuller.
Gunther Schuller. It's funny, I don't know if I should say this, but it's funny. Clark Terry, he has a unique sense of humor, So I told Clark, because he wrote a recommendation on that. As a matter of fact, I was in Clark Terry's youth band. Clark Terry had a youth band. When his band used to play at the Club Baron on Monday nights, he decided that he was going to have his musicians in his band train some young musicians in Harlem to play in the youth band. He created a youth band. He got all of us in this youth band. Sinclair was there, a bunch of us. We used to play in his youth band. And so when I got accepted to the conservatory, he wrote me a reference letter, a recommendations letter. He said, well, you know, you gotta watch your up shooter, because he go on that motherfucker. Excuse me for cursing.
There's children.
Oh, children here? Okay, I'm sorry. He said he one eye. He got one eye. The way he said it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So I didn't know what he meant because Clark would just talk. So when I saw nothing shooter, he said, well, how you doing, Bill? I said, like, but the way he said it, you know, I'm not making fun of it. That's what Clark Terry said. I didn't know what I was looking for. They were like, okay. But he was a wonderful guy. Gunther Schuller was the kind of guy, is the kind of guy, excuse me, that all of us could be playing. And you could be playing out of tune. He said, you're out of tune. I mean, he's like serious. I mean, serious ears, you know, like, you know, pushing, you know, whatever, way in the back. So it sound all right to me. He's that kind of conductor, and he had vision. You know, his vision was to bring musicians to the New England Conservatory, which was a classical school, predominantly white. I think 95, 96% white. You know, and to expose these classically trained musicians who could read anything on paper to musicians who didn't care about paper, and also give us an opportunity to sharpen up our skills on the other hand, you know, to learn about harmony and theory and the great composers and study Schoenberg's theory of harmony and stuff like that, you know, which is what I studied. And so it was a great opportunity, you know, to play in the orchestras and the bands and to be there. I'm glad, I'm very proud to have had the opportunity to have been there.
Last night, a whole bunch of the folks who called talked about the soprano saxophone and how much they loved the way you play the soprano saxophone. Were you playing soprano at that time, or was it all tenor?
I only had one horn, tenor. Yeah, I only had one. So I started playing the soprano after I got one.
That makes sense.
And I kind of look at it like it's really an extension of the tenor saxophone, the way I see it, because you know the low register is the middle register of the tenor, and then it goes up from there. It's in the same key, you know. So you know, I kind of look at it like that, you know, as an extension. So I just play it accordingly, and it's kind of I like to.
Hardest parts, and everyone's enjoying themselves so much at the intermission, and then we go back, but we'll all be entranced as soon as we start the second half. Where's Bill?
Stepped out of the
Wow. You know, it feels like it's warm. I got two air conditioners working. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
I'll be right back.
It's okay. I would like to tell you about some special things coming up, folks. In a few weeks, we continue. We have the famous journalist Herb Boyd, who I'm sure you've been reading for many years in the Amsterdam News and many, many other places. He's coming, and also the great organist Celino Clark is coming, and that's in August. Coming into September, we have some, I don't think we've announced this yet, but our first event in September is going to be the first one, because we've been doing this for well over a year now. We're going to hold it somewhere else. We're going to start to do more of that. We're going to try and bring our Jazz Museum family to another place and try and do that. So we're going to start with all kinds of different local venues. And the first one is quite an august one, although it'll be in September. Wish I had a drummer here. Boom. But anyway, is going to be at the Riverside Church. And our guest is going to be a wonderful man who is a Monsignor. And his name is John Sanders. He's 80, he's in his 80s. And physically, I should say. I mean, chronologically, he's in his 80s. Spiritually, he's about 21 years old. And he played in the Duke Ellington Band back in the 1950s. And not only did he play in the Ellington Band, but he was the guy that used to what they call extract the parts. And I know that sounds like something out of Frankenstein, but extracting the parts means that when Duke Ellington would write a score, Duke used to save, I would say he saved music paper, but he used to write the entire score on one piece of manuscript paper. And the person who extracted the parts had to look at each line and write it down and then transpose it. It's something that's very, very, very hard to do, but by doing it, you learn the real compositional magic of a great composer. I saw an interview with Arthur Miller last week, and he said that he used to take some of Shakespeare's sonnets and just write them in his own hand. And anyway, we're not going to have Shakespeare, but we will have Father John Sanders, and again, that will be on our postcard. And I want to say I'm praying, I'm hoping that a lot of you will come across 125th over to Riverside Church and make that a slam bang event, and get a whole bunch of those people to come here, and we'll build. Anyway, I've got two more words to say to you once more. Bill Saxton. Just a moment. Bill. Take it away. What happened? New England Conservatory, you mentioned Mongo Santa Maria. I think we got to unplug that phone. What happened after Mongo? Or how did you get to Mongo?
Go.
That's not him on the phone.
Yeah,
I hope not.
this is very, very,
We're in trouble.
Very low. This is very low. Yes.
Can you hear out there? You know what? We don't hear the speakers here, but actually I've been hearing that it's quite good. Is it good?
Well, he called. I came down to our audition. I play primarily the tenor saxophone, and he needed an alto saxophone player and a baritone saxophone player. Most of the music that was written for the saxophone, most of the classical music written for the saxophone was written for the alto saxophone. So I played the alto saxophone, but I had never played the baritone saxophone. And I could play the flute. So I went down and I took the baritone saxophone. I borrowed it from the school. I went down and auditioned. He liked the way I played. He hired me. Then we went on the road. And the music that we had to play, his book was this thick. And nobody read no music. Everybody memorized all this music, you know. And that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, where am I going to pull this one off, you know. So, before we start to play, he would tell you they were enumerated. Each one had a number. So he said, we're going to play number so-and-so, so-and-so. So I take those out the book and go on stage. We had stands, I put on the stand. Then in the middle of the set, he decided he's going to play something else. And all I had was, so I had to leave the stage and go back and find number, whatever it was, and come back. By the time I got back, it was almost over. Nervous, right? And so at that point, I made up my mind I was going to memorize this book. Well, I did it, you know, because it was like an ego trip with everybody in the band. Everybody memorized every song in the book, so I had to do it too. So it wasn't so hard. So I still know them. So that was a great experience, you know, to be playing on that level right out of college. You know.
Was that your first real road experience?
No. Before I went to the conservatory, I was involved with this guy named Granville Lee. He had a program that was a musical, historical program. He called it like Negro Music in Vogue. And what was his name? Lou Myers. You heard of Dr. Lou Myers? He was the narrator. And that was before he became popular on TV. And we used to go and do the college circuit, and the Southern colleges, Southern black colleges. Actually, that's when I actually stopped. And I met some of the students there. You know, I said, well, they can be in college. Guess who else can be in college? You know, and that's how the whole thing started clicking in my head that that's where I belong, to college, as a result of that tour. So we should drive everywhere. And then Mongo was the first kind of high profile. Then from there, I played after a couple of records, 2-3 records with him. Then I played with Tito Puente. And I did 2 records with him. And then I played with Machito. I just did the whole Latin thing. When I played with Tito Puente, we used to work 8 days a week. Nowadays. I mean, it's because we're playing like every night. And then 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 more on Sunday. No, I couldn't work with anybody else but him. So after like about 2.5 years, because I was completely taken off the jazz scene, I had no time to play with anybody else. So then I went from there to, I started playing with Frank Foster's band. Frank Foster, we met, it was before I went to the conservatory, because I couldn't read music very well. And his wife used to say, "Why do you have him in your band?" We used to play this club called we used to play for 75 cents, I remember. 75 cents. Token was 15 cents, so I had enough to get some pizza. So. And we used to play there, and I used to, in the band, you have a rest. I was still playing. So I used to make goofs like that back then. And so his wife was, "Well, why do you have him in the band?" He said, "You'll see." And so I've been playing with his band still till now. And as most of you may know, he's had a stroke about a couple of years ago. And I was one of his personal students as well. And he's like a father to me, very, very close. I spoke to him before I came here tonight, in fact. And I now play his parts in the band. So, we've come kind of full cycle. And I started playing with his band, and then what happened? After the concerto, I played with the Mercellington band for a while. I played with Hampton, the Hampton band. Didn't stay long, though. I don't like marching around the audience. That's part of the gig, You had to march. All the way around here, flying home all the way home. I just walked out one day and never came back.
You flew home.
Yeah, I went home. I couldn't get with that.
Well, this is a time period. I assume that we're talking about the early 70s and the mid 70s.
Yeah,
right?
very busy.
This was a time of great change in jazz because the era that you came up in, I mean, you mentioned the 60s, and John Coltrane's still alive and all that's happening. And then now when they tell the story of jazz in the 70s and 80s, sometimes jazz histories tell you like nothing happened, jazz died, which it didn't because a whole bunch of great people were playing then. How did it feel? Did you feel that the public had left jazz or the things had changed in any way, or were you too busy working?
Well, what I noticed that it changed was that as hard as like Commodity Leaf over there, we used to study changes. We used to study playing the classics of the music written by Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Kenny Dorham, and all these people, and others too. Let's just name a few. Then you had guys who didn't want to play any of that, and that's when the music became like quote unquote art music, so whatever it goes in the name of art. So if I knew how to play 3 notes on my saxophone and can squint my eyes, people was actually buying into this, and so this music became very, very, a lot of guys have made great careers out of it, Had I locked into that group of guys, perhaps more people would have known about me on a different level and stuff, but that wasn't where my interest was, because I had started playing a certain way, and the way I hear it, after a while, I could scream and honk, but I get bored with doing myself. I lose my own attention.
What's your opinion about what happened to John Coltrane's music, from the changes to the melodic tunes to the things that happened later? I mean, most saxophone players have thought about what it represented. How did it strike you when it was all happening?
Well, I mean, I didn't catch it all happening. I caught it on a record, and that's what endeared me to him, or him to me, But then when it started toward the end of his life, he was so open to new things and new concepts, but he could justify it because he did all this other stuff. I mean, stuff where he walked in the bar, he played with Earl Bostic and all these different people, and then suddenly he's playing this. This new music that was very abstract and very energetic and, atonal, and I could see, and still within all of that, I could hear a lot of music coming from him. But the people that locked on to him, they didn't quite have that same background, you know. And some, you know, like, it didn't matter, because guys like, I don't know if you're familiar with Albert Aller, you know, he had another thing. I could hear that, you know. And, of course, Archie Shepp. I asked Archie Shepp, you know, we were talking recently. I said, well, why did Coltrane produce your record? Why you? You know, how did that happen? Because whenever you see, hear festivals about with Coltrane, you never hear about Archie Shepp. He never does interviews, but his first record was produced by John Coltrane, and I know that. And so he said that a friend of Coltrane's that he was in the army with, he wanted to do him. But the producer of the record wanted him to play John Coltrane's music. This guy wanted to play his own music. He didn't say who it was. He said, so when it came around, he called up and said, well, I'll play Coltrane's music. And so that's how it happened.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's never looked back. That's an interesting story. He just told me that recently.
So, first splash with the jazz scene or something that I remember was Roy Haynes' Hip Ensemble.
Yeah.
And how did you hook up with Roy Haynes?
Well, back then, my phone was ringing all the time. I would go from one to the other. Just, you know, I get off the road with one, I play with Clark Terry, I come back, I go out with Tito Hunter, I come back, I hook up with them. I play, you know, I was to sub in and out of the Count Basie band, you know. And so I was busy, you know, so I wanted to play with Art Blakey, you know. But Art Blakey, you know, he wouldn't hire me. And it wasn't because I couldn't play, but because he had certain ideas about who he wanted in his band, you know. I found that out much later. So I played with Roy Haynes. And that's how you get your apprenticeship, playing with a master, you know, master drummer. And so we played with him, the hip ensemble. And we worked the circuit, you know, and I was getting experience. And he taught me so much. Still to this day, I'm very hard on drummers. I look for certain things in drummers that, you know, otherwise you can't play with me. You know, I don't want to play with you, it's fine, you know. But he's raising my level for drumming because drummers must be conscious of the structure of the song, not just the beat. They, you know, gotta know how to play with you, play without you, you know, and out free, you know, come back as long as everybody understands where the beat is, you know, you can do just about anything you want to, like in a dance. So, for instance, like I can say in Latin salsa music, when you dance to that music, sometimes you know, you can stop and then catch the beat. You know, catch the rhythm, and keep on dancing, you know, like that, you know. And so this is the kind of thing that Roy has exposed me to. So, you know, now I can tell drummers what I want them to do, how to conceptualize what I'm trying to do, you know, because he's helped me to develop it and make me independent of waiting for the drummer to give me the beat.
That's the story that you told on the radio last night, was about something about the time and about he said, don't wait for me or something like that. Could you tell that one?
Yeah, it was a situation we were playing in McKell's, and there was a quintet with myself and a trumpet player named John Mosley, and I noticed that Roy would play differently behind him than he would play behind me. So I would often tell Roy, I was very outspoken, so I would come to him and I'd say, whatever was going on, I would tell him, you know, I said, well, Roy, I need to talk to you. He said, here comes my father. This is calling me his father. So I said, man, you know, well, when you play behind him, you don't play the same way you play behind me. When I'm playing, I can't feel the beat. He said, well, beat your own drum, you know. If you beat your own drum, you got it right, I'll be there. If it's not right, then you got to get it together. But if you think I'm going to play for you, you got another thought coming. There's some other words he used, but in a nutshell, that's what it was. So that was great for me because I had always had the idea that the drummer's supposed to play for you, and you just sit there and ride it, you know, and it's fine. But now, he freed me up in such a way that, you know, I don't care what the drummer plays now. My stuff works all the time.
All right.
I can't imagine playing in a band, I mean, led by a guy who played with Charlie Parker, Lester Young, Stan Getz, John Coltrane. I mean, you know, some of the greatest.
Terrible.
Louis Jordan.
And Louis Armstrong, too.
L.A.
don't forget Ella and Chick Corea and all the great people, and that this man who played in all their bands chose you to be his saxophone player. And I'd like to, this is like the education things that you do and have been doing, and how you pass this message along, and how you have, for so many years, pioneered in so many different ways, all these different educational initiatives. Where does the time come in your teaching where you get a chance to talk to young drummers and young saxophone players and share with them what you're sharing with us tonight? And how did education start to come into your life? How did you become a great educator?
Well, it's still happening now. It's a work in progress, but I'm glad that you mentioned that because most recently I bought a brownstone, and it's on 133rd Street between Lennox and 7th Avenue, 148 West 133rd Street. And in this brownstone, I along with my wife, Theta, give her a hand, a very creative, distinguished author, and she's on her own way. We created a performance space. We have a performance space in the brownstone on the ground floor, the whole thing. And we're going to do, as a matter of fact, Roy Haynes has donated a set of drums to us. We got a piano there. We're going to do all, this is going to be a place. And I want all my friends like Dick and Kamal, everybody, because it's going to be a place where we can do more cutting edge stuff, brainstorm on ideas that we have, and keep some real music happening in a place where we can congregate and put our heads together and make it available so that young people can come and hear this music, and also teach them and show them and do workshops. We also got, on certain nights, we're going to do poetry nights. My wife is going to do women group meetings because she's a communicator, she's a communications person, and so all kinds of things that we got in mind to do there at my place. It's going to be called Bill's Harlem Jazz Scene, which I have my own organization with my own 501c3, and we got all kinds of programs in mind that we're going to do, but mainly to make the music available so that people, it's not about, no liquor license, it's about the music. It's about growing and really demanding things of ourselves like we used to even have cutting sessions. Feel like cutting,
Explain what cutting is for.
Well, you have to have a knife.
See y'all later.
I got mine. But the cutting session is when two musicians, like arm wrestling, sort of, meeting in the minds, and you just play and exchange fours, twos, ones. It's up to the audience who they like best. Some of the best cutting sessions that I've had recently when I used to play at St. Nick's Pubs. There's a young saxophone player who's excellent. His name is James Carter. He used to come to St. Nicholas Pub to come at me every week. And then he was playing at the Blue Note once, so I went down to the Blue Note. And he didn't even acknowledge that I was in the place. But then he came back to the pub. I didn't acknowledge that he was in the place. And this went on for a little while, and then finally, I said, man, this ain't my thing, So we started to play again, but people remember those sessions that he and I used to play at the St. Nick's Pub because we would just go at it. And it's healthy because, sometimes you play at a place, I played there for over 10 years, you get a comfort zone, So you need somebody to come up with some different kind of energy, to make you do something different, You can't do the same thing all the time and expect something different to happen.
Last night, again, on the radio, I heard you talk about a phone call that you got very, very recently about a teaching situation. And the way you told it was wonderful. I just wondering if you could share it again about what happened. Because I'm a teacher myself, and you gave me courage. Hearing your story gave me something to think about. I wonder if you could share with everyone.
Well, this was a junior high school in Harlem called Watley. High school
I taught there. I taught there.
Yeah, a lot of people went to White. They got their own school song and stuff. So the person who's in charge of the, because it's an art school now. It's an
Performing arts
school.
school now.
Yeah, right. I didn't know what it was before, but I know now. And so the person that was in charge called me up, and she said, we need a music teacher. And she called me on Wednesday. I said, okay. She said, do you teach? I said, yeah, I teach. She said, well, can you come? I said, well, do you need a music teacher for? I think she was thinking September. She said, tomorrow. I said, I can't come tomorrow, you know. I was like dirty, I had my dirty clothes, I'm renovating my building, you know, trying to do my job. So I said, I can come Monday. She said, fine. I show up Monday in the class. The students had chased away 3 music teachers in September. I won't say they chased them away, I'd say the teachers left. So when I go in there, one of the kids walk up to me and he had on clean sneakers, he had a mouthful of braces, you know. He comes to me and he says, well, you know we had 3 music teachers, so we want to know when you leave. Like I said, I observed that he had a mouthful of braces, so that told me that somebody cared about him. Because everybody that needs braces don't have them. So I went to work on him. I said, I'm not leaving when you leave. So I waited to the nicest day, when the weekend was going to be nice and hot. I called his mother. First I told him, I said, well, how would you like the person who bought your braces pay for your dental work to find out how you behave in class? Because I noticed that he was a leader, you know. And he came back the next day and apologized, but he started up again. So I called his mother and told him. After that, we were best of friends. Everybody.
That's fun.
And this happened in May, the beginning of May, so I had like roughly 7 weeks, something like that. In that short time, I got them to play in the graduation pomp and circumstances, the same group of people. They're tripping. With girls that act like grown women, you know. And curse at will. You know. And sometimes I was just tired. I'd come home and I'd have to rest because it was. But I had it coming because I wasn't the best student myself. So I had it coming. It was my own karma. Hey, black Sunday, I mean, you know, they laid it on me. I got them to play, and then one day I was driving to the school, and I said, well, I got to get something to interest them. So I wrote a tune, you know. I write lots of tunes. It was kind of like fun. Because I played with Roy Ayers, you know, so I got that thing, you know, too. And so I wrote a nice little melody, kind of catchy, short, because I know that they didn't read music very well, so I wrote the music on the notes, and I got them to play the notes, and I said, well, now, this is the way you play these notes. And so I showed them, those were like kind of fun. You know? And then since we were playing pomp and circumstances, we had the drummers there, so I had the drummers, you know, I told this drummer to play this, and the bass drummer to do this. So we had this groove going. So now, after the class was over, they want to stay. They want to hang. And then after I got them all to play what they were playing, I started playing on top. Well, they never heard me play. And finally, I became their boy, and they put the song, they called it Wildly Funk. And I said, well, y'all gonna play the funk, y'all gotta be cool. You know? And so it turned into a real good experience for everybody. And some of the students, I made a promise that I would get together with them over the summer to help them to elevate their musicianship. And so I still have to do that. And it will be done, you know, because I'm about passing this music on.
Speaking about passing it on, we're going to pass it on in 2 different ways right now, because I'm going to pass it over to my dear friend, again, the co-producer of our series, and a man who wears many hats, and a great writer, Mr. Greg Thomas, and he's going to lead us into the next segment, for which is our question and answer period, which this audience always comes up with all kinds of great things when we get stuff. So Greg, why don't you come up?
Thank you.
Greg Thomas, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we open it up, I just want to ask you a quick question about your travels. You've been all over the world, and I'd like to know 1 or 2 of your favorite places and to tell us why they are your favorite places to go outside of the States.
146th Street. Sometimes that's like being in another country. 133rd Street is like another country. Anyways, you might see anything. But on the real side, my favorite place?
Well, one or two. You don't put it down to one, but I mean, this recording we were listening to before you got here. It was you in 1991 in Germany.
I just happened to be there.
Just happened to be there. Okay. Well, it was a great recording.
Thank
You've been to Africa several times.
Yeah, 18 different countries.
Okay. So, I mean, I just want you to relate some of those.
But I didn't feel like I was home in Africa.
All right.
You know, I mean, you know, I did an interview over there, and somebody asked me, how does it feel to be home? Well, somebody had stolen my tape recorder out of my hotel room, you know, and then you go to the restaurant, and you gotta sit there and wait for them to serve everybody else before you get yours. So I said, well, it's cool, but I don't feel like this is my home, you know. I mean, I get ripped off here too, but, you know, like, you know, I don't know, some of the stuff that, you know, but it was a nice experience. I didn't feel like kissing the ground. I don't feel like kissing the ground nowhere. But some of my favorite places, I don't know. I haven't been any place that I want to live other than New York. You know, no place I want to live. I just hang, enjoy it for a minute, and then I got to hear somebody cuss. Go off. I can't even be in New Jersey. I have a house in New Jersey. It's so quiet over there. I'm like, let's go back to the city.
You're in New
We'll
York.
go over there and cook hot dogs and come back.
Yeah, you're a real New Yorker.
No, but I like a quality of life, But maybe it's still coming. I like Chicago. I like St. Louis. I like East St. Louis, but I ain't never been there.
Why you like it?
'Cause they say it's bad. It's
Yeah.
tough.
That's some heavy
You
musicians
don't
that
wanna-
come from there.
I don't know. They say some heavy period over there. You go over there.
Did Miles and Clark come from there?
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Right?
All right, so y'all get ready, because I'm getting ready to let y'all in on this. So, it's your turn. If you have a question or a comment, then raise your hand. Stand up, please. So your hand first.
Hi. I don't know the name of the club, but it may have been Slugs. Excuse me. Is it true that years ago a crazed, jealous woman killed a band leader? Or?
Yeah, Lee Morgan got killed there. It was his lady. It was his, I don't know if she was married to him, but she was his companion for sure. And it was his gun.
I was just wondering.
But she didn't take it from him. So sometimes it's easier to let your woman carry your gun so that the man won't stop you. If you got nowhere to head, you got to be cool with her. Like, you can't be tough. You got to eat some humble pie. She got the gun. I'm sorry, baby.
Was that in the 50s or 60s?
No, that was in the 70s. As a matter of fact, I was very brokenhearted because I always wanted to play with Lee Morgan, So I ended up playing with Freddie Hubbard, which wasn't too bad.
I'm glad you asked that question so we can give, for the sake of the audience, many of them I know, you know that, but also for the archives, because Loren did allude to that earlier, so now we have some of the details on that.
On the intermission, I had asked you if you'd ever gone to Mitten's Playhouse. And you said, oh, I should have spoken about Mittens.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
Well, I wasn't there with Charlie Parker. The very tail end of Mittens, I would come from school and I played a jam session there, And who was there? Junior Cook was there. And I think Blue Mitchell, I saw Blue Mitchell there too. But I caught the very end just because Kenny Dorham was hosting this session. At that time, he was, his kidneys was failing, his skin was getting dark, and he was very weak at that point in time. But that was my time for Mittens. Even though I lived in town, I used to go 125th Street, and we didn't venture too far down because we get too far in our neighborhood. You know, Harlem used to be very territorial at that point in time. Somebody recognized you, and you did something, and I was always doing something. We had a long ways to run. On 18th Street, back to 146. So I used to stay, you know, kind of where I knew what was happening. We were busy, we were doing things all the time. So I missed some of the good times at Memphis that I probably could have seen because I'm certainly old enough to have seen it. I was kind of late bloomer, you know, just all the way around in terms of getting hip to things that probably I should have been hip to.
I have a quick question before we go to the next audience question. I'm wondering, in the 70s and even in the 80s, were there some of the master, elder, tenor players who you admired on record that you saw, even got a chance to play with? Like, for example, Dexter Gordon and Johnny Griffin were out of the country for a while. Then in the 70s, they came back, you know, to big claim. Can you tell us about any of those kind of experiences? What was it like?
I said earlier that I used to play with Sonny Stitt all the time, you know, but I had a chance to play with, gosh, a lot of them. I got a chance to play with Dexter. I had a chance to play with, Jesus Christ, so many. Lou Donaldson, he's still around, and I play with him now. But
What was it like playing with Dexter Gordon?
scary. I was might not good. You know, but he's very relaxed. It was a situation where I was allowed to sit in, so I just sat in. You know, I played with George Coleman, Frank Foster, Cecil Payne. I mean, so many. He did Ernie Wilkins. So many. I can't think.
I remember one time I came to see a singers club. I don't live too far from there, and I was going to try to stump. Mr. Saxton himself. I had been listening to this Dexter Gordon recording, and I asked him to play a tune. It was either one of Dexter's tunes or it was a tune that he played based on All the Things You Are. But he said, "Oh yeah," and he just tore right into it. And then he called me to prepare for today and the radio show. He says, "Oh, I hear you like Johnny Griffin." I had Johnny Griffin on my voicemail, so you got big ears, man. You got real big ears. Okay, so,
Mr. Saxton, I'd like to know, what is your feeling about the impact of rap music on the music industry?
Well, a lot of money. You know, a lot of money. And for those who music they sample, they've been able to make some money too. Unfortunately, you know, because these guys are not musicians, you know, they always have to sample somebody else's music. If they do a beat, they don't even know what a set of drums look like, but they can get these beats. They're really very, very gifted, talented people, because if you have the ability to take from somebody else's James Brown riff, you know, if you can take a beat from Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you can take all this stuff and synthesize it together and make a hit out of it, you know, and make something happen with it, with all these materials from all these different resources. I think it takes great skill and a lot of talent, but you know, I think that the marriage between the jazz musicians or real musicians and them should come, because whatever they want, we have the ability to write it down, and it can be original, the same flavor, but not quite the same material. You know, I think that there needs to be a marriage between the two music, and one of the concepts that I want to have happen at my place is called Jazz Meets Hip Hop, so that they can see what we're about and we can see what they're about, and maybe we can all make some money and have a big impact on the music. So I hope that answered your question, Carl.
That'll hold me.
all right, we have two folks over here. Ethan, who was the first to raise that hand?
Me.
Okay, so yeah. Bill, with all the tradition and many people that you played with and whatnot, how similar to the question you just answered, but how can you impart that the importance of what has been created in the past to connect with the present and the future? I know your brownstone's going to do some of that, but I just find it a very difficult job to express to the young folks just how important it is to deal with that evolution. How do you see yourself in that role?
Well, I think mostly because if you put the music out there, you know, this is what I really, really, truly believe. If you playing the real music and they get to hear the real music, you know, they'll take what they want from it themselves, you know. But we have to make it available to them. I think that one of the problems is today, and why the hip hop and rap music, and because the people who the parents of the young people who are doing this music, they listen to the same thing that they're listening to. They have never had an opportunity to listen to any other kind of music because that's their whole life. The mother's listening to, they call Whitney Houston old school. That's what they call Whitney Houston. So she's old school, and the mother's listening to Whitney. Then they don't. What would they know about Charlie Parker, for example? You know, Rita. I was having a haircut. My barber was 40. I left him, but he was 40 years old. He has a couple of kids, and he asked me about. I have a jazz literacy curriculum that I was doing at the Frederick Douglass Academy. This curriculum is about, you know, making them literate about jazz, but also connecting the dots between the field holler, gospel, the blues, rhythm and blues, straight on up to hip hop, with video examples and recording examples, and live examples. And so this is something that I was doing on my own, you know, just because it needs to be done, you know. And I knew nobody was going to just pay me, so I said, well, if I do it free, the word free goes a long ways. It says, it's not going to cost you a dime. You can almost get anything you want, because you said that. Then once you get them going, then, well, you know, I need Anyway, we was doing this jazz literacy course, you know, and we connect all these dots because there's a common denominator. There's a beat, there's a groove, you know. If you sing Amazing Grace, it has a groove, Amazing Grace. But if you do like, you know, Stormy Monday, Eagle flies on Friday, it's a groove, you know. It's about the beat and the groove. So I was doing this course. I lost my thought. I forgot. Huh? Barber, thank you. So I was giving my hand. He said, well, what is this literacy course you doing? Thank you, Kamal. You're so sharp. Oh. And so I asked, he said, what is this course you doing? I said, well, man, and I saw a white person walk past the barber shop. I said, well, man, see that white person right there? If I ask them who Louis Armstrong is, I bet you she'll tell me. So I said, well, do you know? He said, well, he's 40 years old, 2 kids. No. You know, he said, I think he blew a horn or something. You know? So I said, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But thinking him being a father, he's a father of 2. What can he teach his kids? So this is what we must make this music available, you know, and spend our time learning the past, you know, like we're going back to your question, so that there can be a future, you know, because there can be no future without a past, you know, but now it's just now, everything is now. And so I feel like one of my main goals at the Harlem Jazz scene is to make it possible, have the doors open, you know, so people can come in and check out the music. And we're musicians really working on some new music, new works, and having it possible to have something happen there. So, and it's happening for us. We're going to do it anyway, so it's always going to be good.
All right.
I don't know, I guess this is not on, but hey, Bill.
Hey, Mike,
It just seems like I just needed to throw this out here because I was sitting here thinking about it, right? It was just funny that it seemed like you came up hard. You know, life wasn't that easy for none of us, you know, not for me either. So when I'm sitting here thinking about it, I heard you say, you know, you're doing that thing in the house. You know, there's a lot of kids out there that's going to need, that come up hard too, and they may not get the chance to pick up a horn, play a bass. As you said, your wife was going to do group things for herself. You know, I was just wondering, are you going to do the same thing as a group thing for youngsters or, you know, teenagers or even adults that may need to be guided? You know, because sometimes guidance is not always going to come through your family member. It may come through somebody that you don't know. As you know, as you said, you got help from somebody that wasn't a family member, but he's somebody to you now more closer than, you know, you've ever had.
Yeah, I totally 100. This is what I've been saying the whole time, you know. And we are going to do all kinds of situations. What I really want to do is have a Harlem Youth Jazz Band. That's what I want to do. And these are from kids that go to schools around here who are studying music. And that make it possible for kids. I'm not trying to open no school, but I'll always be open to help anybody. There's a young man who I met here earlier this evening who approached me about studying. He wants to move forward. So I gave him my card, you know. I'm always doing that all the time, you know. But that's what we want to do. We want to have music. And we're going to have possibilities where they can actually perform on the stage too, you know. Yes, Mike. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I want to get Imani in shape up, get her up there. You know, he has a daughter that's an excellent violinist. Yeah.
Okay,
Good afternoon. What?
just in case the mic isn't working, could you please stand and just,
Hold it.
okay, thank you, Loren.
Hello?
It's working.
Oh,
Just have to talk right into it.
hello. Thank you, Bill, just for being you. Two questions. I have one question, one comment, but the first question is, how do you take care of yourself and your needs and to ensure that you stay healthy so that you can do the things that you want to do? That's one question. And the second comment is that I have a teenager, and the way I introduced him to jazz is that my grandson is when we're driving. I said, look, I listen to, we do this thing with the fingers with the dial, boom, boom, boom. And I hit 88.7, he hit 97.1, high, you know. So I said, look, if you listen to my music going, then I'll listen to yours coming back. So, and what I've started challenging him to do is, what's that instrument playing? And he trying to figure out, well, what's that instrument playing? So, without even knowing it, he's learning about jazz. And then I'm learning about hip hop.
Right.
Because, you know, my intern at the job was surprised, you know, she had the little, you know, hot station on and I was singing along. She said, oh.
Right.
But I'm finding that in order to introduce jazz, you have to just be very creative with this generation. And if you're creative, you know, you can get to them. But back to the first question.
Well, first question, what I do to stay healthy? Well, I try to eat right, you know. I try to eat something green all the time, you know. I'm not an exercise freak, you know, like I used to be, but I walk to my car.
That ain't right.
That's on the serious.
That ain't right. That ain't
But
right.
that's true.
Walk to the refrigerator.
No, I need to do more. But I do eat properly, and I don't eat too much, you know. I'm gonna get better. And so far, so good. I have my prostate checked every year. I'm cool. My PSA is good, you know. My sugar is good. My pressure is okay. But I have to do better. You're right about that. And I think we all have to do better because I just lost a dear friend recently as a result of prostate cancer, you know. A young man just a little bit older than myself. And his name is John Stubblefield, a fabulous saxophone player, you know, and he's not here with us anymore because of that. So you hit a very important chord for musicians, non-musicians, and all of us. You know, we have to watch the fried fish, and, you know, certain kinds of foods that that's so prevalent in our community that we got to watch out for. So thank you for reminding me. And I know about the radio thing, but everybody know when they come to my house what's going to be happening. So it's like my kids just kind of expect don't touch my radio. But it happens, And I go along with them, but I've had the privilege of playing with Roy Ayers a lot, and he and I got together last year because my son was getting into writing, making beats. And so as a result of his making beats, I started to get into writing this kind of music, and Roy Ayers and I got together and we wrote almost 100 songs, because it was coming that easy, especially with the computer. Boy, oh boy. You have time to think, and you can edit. So I was coming up with 5 and 6 on the night. Yeah. Good ones. You know. All right. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. We had. Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
Since you are an educator at this point in your life, and the school that you're planning requires a great deal of money, have you got a grant writer at this point? Good question.
Yeah, wow. No, we need a grant writer. We need a grant writer. As a matter of fact, we got to get your name. And also, we would like to partner our organization.
You're a volunteer.
Yeah, I got it. He's my neighbor.
But he's volunteering.
Okay.
He said he's gonna give us information.
Yeah. I would like to.
So you need a grant writer?
Yes, I do. Yes.
He's volunteering.
Okay.
Would you take an amateur grant writer?
Yeah. Take an amateur pro. Yeah, sure. Take it. Especially you, Charlie.
That's right.
Charlie's my good friend. We live in the same building. He's like my mentor. I love Charlie. And but what we like to do with the Harlem Jazz Scene is to partner ourselves with the Harlem Jazz Museum, so we can all go forward together. And instead of I got mine over here, you got yours over there, I think we should all get together and try to make. We're going the same direction. We're going as a museum, and your education. I think that what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do is going along the same lines. So I'm offering my organization, the Harlem Jazz Scene, to partner with the Harlem Jazz Museum, and we can all move forward together.
Well, Bill, we tried to get you here about a year ago. We were talking about that, and so let me think about it for a moment. Yes.
You got Big Mike and Born Allah over there. We got the video tape too. Yeah, that's Big Mike, that's Born Allah. We got everybody.
There's a young man that's been trying to.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Here's the young people.
Yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned that, Loren, because Bill did play hard to get with us.
I was a little bit skeptical at first. He was just like talking about the Harlem Jazz Museum.
Hold on.
I knew. Hold on a minute. No, but I had to sit
I'm
back.
a fellow saxophone player, right?
No,
So we had that going with.
yeah, we had, I know, but I was just skeptical. I was.
Hello, player.
What?
I was doing the sister thing, along with it, But, I stood back and I watched it through the test of time, I see what these guys are doing. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It has to be done. This stuff has to be documented. We're losing musicians every single, it's just every month or so, sometimes 2, 3 go. And we have to keep this thing going. We have to document it as much as possible. What these guys are doing here at the Harlem Jazz Museum is very valid. Let's just give them a hand.
We have one more question.
Hi, what's up, Bill? My question is, through this musical journey that you're in right now, did you ever get discouraged, or did like some of your homies try to sway you away from doing it? And if they did, how did you handle it?
Well, I don't know. All my homies became Well, there's one guy who knows me before I became a musician. He's sitting over there, born Allah, right there. And, you know, I found that, you know, like, I still have many friends who came before my music life, you know. But then most of my friends are musicians. I surrounded myself with people who have the same ideas that I have, you know. And then I found myself to become a force because then people will start to want to be around me. Well, to be around me, you have to want to be into what I'm into because you know, that's what I do all the time. If I'm not singing, I'm playing. If I'm not playing, I'm singing. If I'm not playing, singing, I'm writing. There's always sometimes I'll come home in the middle of the night and I get on the piano and I'm like, uh-oh, there he goes again. And so, you know, just I think you need to surround people that's doing what you're doing. Then you don't have to ever worry about that. And then your other homies, when you want to chill, you just chill. You know, I have friends that are artists. You know, Michael Singletary is over there, fabulous, fantastic artist. And I'm surrounded by people who creative. You know, and so it's easy. It's easy. You know, but when you gonna try to hang out in the corner and then play music, I found that didn't quite go together because what I was interested in just doesn't work. It's not the same thing. So that's a no-brainer. You know, but try. You know, just try to surround yourself around people who are interested in what you're interested in. It's just, it works, it's easy. And I tell you this too, little brother, if you do something that you love to do, you never work a day in your life.
There you go.
You put that in stone, man.
That's wisdom. That's so true.
Well, listen, like any good experience, good music, right? And time has flown here. We've been talking for over 2 hours. And it feels like maybe 15 minutes have gone by and already got, like I'd want to hear you play another set. I've got about another 45 questions. So I guess I'll say a few things. First of all, I hope you'll come back. And I hope that maybe your wife would also at some point participate in our discussion. She's a very provocative thinker, and I'd like to get her take on some things. And also, I'd just like to say, on behalf of the Jazz Museum in Harlem, that we look forward to getting together to talk about what we can do together so that we are all working towards the same goal. And I know that we look forward to that opportunity of having that discussion with you, and with so much respect. What I'd like to do now is, can I tell the story? I haven't asked you, but I'll tell it. Wilhelmina and I have a plan where we call up the person who's coming to be a guest, and we say, you know, some people like ginger ale, some people like Coca-Cola, some people like water, some people want a little bit of rye, you know, something like that. You know? And so I think Will May called the other day and said, you know, we'd like to get something for you. He said, how about some champagne? So we got some champagne.
Well, let me tell you, this is how it went. I'm going to tell you how it really went down. She said about, Bill, what would you like to drink? I said, I want some Cristal. She said, well, what's that? I said, that's that $600 bottle of champagne. She said, no wonder I don't know what it is.
Yeah, everybody has some.
Oh, yeah. Yes, oh, yes. We're going to share.
Can I get some more, man?
Well, wait.
Show that to the camera now. How much did he give you?
Oh, not come on.
I feel like I was cheating.
That's it?
Well, I want to share with everybody, too. I
See, he didn't give it to me before the interview because it was different. When we finished, you know, should have given it to me before I would really tell you a story.
So I'd like to say to Bill Saxton and everything that you do, with much respect, cheers.
Thank you.